Former Bowie State defensive lineman and current Washington Commander Joshua Pryor joins the show to talk about the organization's HBCU Night Out and then also his time at Bowie State. Oh, yeah, it's Locked On HBCU. Play my music.
You are Locked On HBCU, your daily podcast covering HBCU sports. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, family? Welcome back to another episode of the Locked On HBCU podcast, your number one daily one-stop shop for everything HBCU athletics, Monday through Friday, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And I, of course, am Darian Gray, a.k.a. the Mouth of the South, Texas Southern alum and former TSU Herald Sports editor and current contributing writer at USA Today's Saints Wire. Thank you for going on this journey with me, making Locked On HBCU your first listen of the day every day. And remember, just because the mic cuts off does not mean that the journey is over. It just means it's time to follow me on Twitter at South Exclusives. Starts with an S and ends with an S. Today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks, daily fantasy sports made easy. Go to prizepicks.com/lockedoncollege and then use the code LOCKEDONCollege to have your first deposit matched up to $100. I'm very excited about today's episode because it is Feature Friday. I know we were typically going to wait until after the season. That's when we do it, when we get into basketball season or really post-football season. But then I got an email. Then I was able to set something up. And we got Joshua Pryor, the former defensive lineman at Bowie State, former All-American and current Washington Commander, to come on the show. So we brought Feature Friday back a little bit early. But who's really complaining? Matter of fact, let's go ahead and get to Pryor discussing the Washington Commanders and their HBCU initiative called HBCU Night Out. All right, Joshua, I'm appreciative of you coming on here, doing your thing, taking time out of your day. So thank you first and foremost. And I wanted to get into a special event that I'm not sure if everybody knows about, especially if they're not Commanders fans, right? But the Washington Commanders just put on an HBCU Night Out event. And for those who aren't familiar, can you explain what that is?
From my understanding, basically just shining the light, really giving recognition to HBCUs. We have, a couple guys that's from HBCUs. So it was really just a good day where they really put, HBCUs on display and gave a little bit more recognition. Letting people know that HBCUs are out there and trying to just spread awareness, really.
Right, and they had the Divine Nine out there, so it was a great event for alum students. But I was interested as an athlete who is on the Commanders, right? Was there anything you were able to participate in, or was this strictly just for the fans? Was any fan and player engagement? I just wanted some of the details on that.
It wasn't really anything extra that I myself was able to do. I did see that they had the Divine Nine out there. They did have a little bit more, fan-friendly stuff, just that they can, get more hands-on with everything going on. But me personally, I didn't, get to necessarily do anything extra for the HBCU night.
Right. So that was something I was interested in. But the event itself, outside of your involvement in it, you're an HBCU graduated from Bowie State, right? How did you feel about the team that you're on having an HBCU night? Because we see more of these, but it's not as if every single team has one. And the Commanders are one of the ones who did. So how did that make you feel being somebody who graduated from Bowie State?
It was definitely it brought a great feeling to me, just to to see, it's basically where I come from, HBCUs, just getting that recognition. I feel like that they have, like they deserve. I wish, it was a league wide thing. Every team took place and had their own night to, spread the recognition. But just taking small steps. You know what I'm saying? Like for me, even just coming out of college, like that was a big thing. Just trying to shine more light and get more light shined on HBCUs. That was one of the reasons why I, stayed at Bowie for all 4 years. So just, every little thing that can try to, almost like even a playing field for HBCUs and, spread more lights on us. I'm definitely happy to see it, and hopefully that I can see it continue.
Right. So what do you feel like needs to be some of the steps, right? We don't have all the answers. I'm not trying to put you in a position to have all the answers to this, but what do you think you would like to see to continue the exposure, whether that's athletics, academics? Because one of the things that I think is great about this is you have fans out there and students and high schoolers at these games who they're not going to play ball. They're not going to play football. They're not going to play basketball, baseball, volleyball, right? Soccer. They're not going to play these things. But now a Bowie State is in front of their face to go get an education. So what do you feel needs to happen to where we continue to spread and kind of grow the exposure of HBCUs locally and nationally?
One of the biggest things I would say is, just resources. Coming to HBCU, I didn't even know the resources that I was going without for so long, just because that's all I knew. So, and that's just from a an athletic standpoint and a just overall, say like campus standpoint. Like HBCUs, we really just make the most of what we have, and like that's just how we do it, and go from there. And I think as we continue to get like more recognition put on for HBCUs, that will give more support. Like more alumni giving back, and just got to be like a building thing. Taking small steps at a time. Even me, like just from when I first went to Bowie to now, like you can see the improvements that's going on. So they definitely taking those steps and getting there and trying to put more resources into things that we need. But I just feel like it's going to take time, but it's definitely moving in the right direction.
Well, that's always a good thing because it's not overnight, right? Nothing is, and it's important to remember it is a progress. But I wanted to ask you about a couple of the guys who are from HBCUs in that locker room with you. You have Danny Johnson, you have Trent Scott, and both of those guys are year 6 players. So they're a little bit older than you are. But does the HBCU connection still kind of bond you guys in a certain way where it's like, okay, I know you went to an HBCU, I went to an HBCU, and it might not be the same experience, but I understand.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like any player coming from HBCU, they will always have a chip on their shoulder, you got to remember where you came from at the end of the day. And so, I definitely had talks with them guys, like Danny went to Southern. So we was talking about some of the guys that actually went to Bowie with me. That's up there now and just was playing. So, it's good to find other guys that, went to HBCUs, and we can definitely connect because of that, and really just kind of have that mutual understanding of, we both kind of went through the same struggle, but we prevailed, you know what I'm saying?
Right. No, that's definitely, I think that last line though, like we went through the same struggle, but we prevailed. And that's a lot of times, not just the story, but I think that's the missing part of the story. People only focus on that struggle, but it's the prevailing part that, hey, we went here, we had to go through this, that, and the third, but look what we came out of it, man. So congratulations to you, because it is something that deserves to be congratulated. And as we move forward, I actually want to get into that time. I think that's a perfect segue leading into it. I want to talk about your time at Bowie State and then also the decision to stay at Bowie State despite some things changing as we continue with Locked On HBCU. Today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks, and PrizePicks is daily fantasy sports made easy. Did you use PrizePicks on Thursday Night Football? Did you make yourself a little bit of money? Maybe you didn't know how to do it. That's okay, because we still have Sunday coming up, right? You still have various games. For example, my Saints are playing the Panthers, and I would hope that the Saints get a lot of the Moors on this. Let me tell you how this thing works. So you take 2 to 6 players from whatever team. It could be multiple teams. You take 2 to 6 players. You put down whatever your deposit is going to be, and then you say, are they going to have more or less than their projected totals? Maybe it's basketball, right? You still got the in-season tournament. You still have those things going on. The finals will be next week. So do you think that this person will have more or less 3-pointers than 3.5? Do you think that this person will have 50, more or less than 50 yards rushing the ball? All of those things come into play. And if you know what you're talking about, you got a little bit more money in your pockets. So go to prizepicks.com/lockedoncollege. That's prizepicks.com/lockedoncollege. And when you use the code lockedoncollege, got to add the code in there. You have your first deposit matched up to $100. As we continue rolling on today's episode of Locked On HBCU, I appreciate you for making this your first listen of the day every day. And remember, we have our 24/7 all day, every day Locked On Sports Today podcast stream. So whether it's 11 a.m., 11 p.m., you can go on there and you can check something out. I have Joshua Pryor, a defensive lineman for the Washington Commanders, here with me, and former Bowie State defensive lineman. I want to ask you about your time there. So you spent 5 years, right? Because you redshirted, correct? A year, and then you played 4 more years?
Yeah, actually, 5.5, because I had my COVID year as well. So I was in college for a little bit, for sure.
Before we get into that, the COVID year eligibility, I'm kind of glad we're starting to work our way out of that, because it gets confusing with eligibility sometimes. It's like, okay, this person came in and he got a red shirt because of medical, and then he got the COVID. So I'm kind of glad we're getting away from that and whatnot. But yes, so you have 5.5 years at Bowie State, right?
Right.
In what ways did those 5.5 years shape you, not only as a player, but then also as a man?
I feel like Bowie, just that time, me being at Bowie, it really it did a lot for me, really, just overall development as a person, on and off the field. I'll start with on the field, just because that's what I do. So coming from high school, I had 3 offers, but Bowie, that was really the one that landed home with me, mainly because I felt like they cared about me, not just as a football player and what I can do for them, but they cared about me as a man. And so that's really what guided my decision going there. And when I got there, I feel like they put me in a position to succeed. They knew who they wanted me to be for them, and it was up to me to fill into that role. And I mean, I did redshirt, but even my redshirt year, they had me, leading the lines and really, trying to put me in position to be, that future leader and that future guy on the team that I ended up turning into be. But my first year, it was just about trying to develop my game. Coming from high school, I didn't really have like the technical coaching and all of that. Just in high school, you line up and go get in the backfield, make something happen. So, I was focusing on things, one thing at a time. Once I felt like I got that down, I went to the next thing. So, literally went from just focusing on my get off. As soon as I watch film, I see it improving. All right, now I feel like my get off the fastest. Okay, now I'm gonna work on my hand placement. All right, once I feel like that's done, now I'm gonna work on my first step, like all of that. And I just kind of started putting it together. And then that following spring, after that season, that was really my time, like to really prove myself and prove, who I was gonna be. And my first practice, we had a transfer guy come in the O lineman room, so I went against him. Was doing pretty good off practice, and from there just never really looked back. And then so slowly just working on my game, trying to refine things and stuff like that. And then I had all my freshman year, I was a All-American and everything like that. So going into my sophomore year, my coaches they started trying to instill in me that I can't win by myself, and really trying to put that in my head that it's a team game. I need to be a team player, and trying to refine my leadership skills, basically. Telling me, trying to find ways how I can pull the guys around me up and do all that. So that's what I focused on. So I really was trying to work on being a leader, and that came over time. By my senior season, I was the captain, and really I felt like a strong leader for the team. But yeah, off the field, I just feel like I went through a real transition of realizing that I can't just be a football player, and I still had to find myself outside of football, and so I had to just open up and being around my team, and just at Bowie, meeting people and all of that stuff. I kind of opened up out of my shell, and started trying, like, seeing the value and being more social. So I'd say that's the two ways on and off the field that I pretty much transitioned and developed at Bowie.
Yeah, man. And when you look at the things they ask you to do on the field, playing between different defensive lineman positions, and I would assume that helped you within your transition to the NFL, which we'll get into later on and whatnot. But there was a moment that I want to take you to. I want to take you to this moment because you were great coming out the gate, redshirt freshman year, All-American, like you say. Another great year. But you never entered the portal. And we see a lot of people, they have a great year at an HBCU, and then they enter the portal. Why did you not do that? Like, why didn't you follow that same suit? And even if that was just transferring to an FCS HBCU, you could have done that too. But you chose to stay at Bowie State despite having great season after great season.
Right. That's that's something that I don't know, I kind of prided myself on. It was definitely talks about it and stuff early on in my career, even before going into my last year with the coaching changes and everything like that. But like after my first year on the field, I even had my own teammates like asking me, why you here? You can transfer, go here and here, do this and that, like. But it was two main reasons. The first one was I felt like Bowie, like we had an understanding. You know what I'm saying? Like at the same time, in the same token of me me understanding like the bigger picture and things, like. Because the transferring, I feel like that would have been easy, but at the same time, like I would have never went to Bowie if I felt like I couldn't have made it made it to the NFL from Bowie. Like that was a big thing for me, even in my recruitment process. I was recruited by Morgan State, so like I had D1 offers as well, but like I said, Bowie was the one that stuck out to me. I made it a point in letting them know that like my NFL ambition and stuff like that, on my visits and when we had talks, and they made me feel comfortable that I can get it done. They even had they had a home visit one night. They brought one of their former players that was from Baltimore as well, went to the same high school as me, ended up making it to the NFL as well. So, that was probably one of the things that solidified me going there in the first place. And so, like at that time, like coming off my junior season, uh, I felt like it was really no need. Of course, it probably would have made things easier and, a lot less, I guess, stressful or, whatever you want to call it. But like, I always like believe in myself. Like I said, if I felt like I wouldn't have been able to make it from Bowie, I would have never went there. So, I was just big on loyalty. I also want to be able to go back to Bowie and see it continue to grow and, like see more people go to the league. And that kind of ties into what we was talking about earlier, just, the growth of, seeing the HBCU community grow and more people from that make it and more recognition and all of that. So that was big for me.
Yeah, and you mentioned the coaching change. So you were able to, or Bowie State was able to retain a little bit of continuity because you had Coach Jackson, who was already on the staff. So a lot of people were familiar. But at the same time, he's not Coach Wilson in the sense that they're two separate individuals. There might be continuity in how some of the things are similar because of a blueprint, but they're not the same guy. So what were some of the differences between Damon Wilson in your first, I guess, 4.5 years, and then Coach Jackson in your 5th year?
I'd say the biggest thing is they like the experience level. That's all. Also like when I was under Coach Wilson, he had the younger version of me. He was more so like, he was guiding me along the way and part of that development into turning me into like the version of myself you see now. But so when Coach Kyle he got put into that position, it was more so like I could understand that he never been in this position. Literally like that whole time he went from the linebackers coach to D coordinator to head coach in less than a year, like before the season started. So, going into the season, like I understood that, things weren't going to be as, like smooth as having Wilson, somebody that, has been a head coach for a long time, has the connections and know how to handle certain situations. But like me being like a senior at the time with Coach Kyle getting into that position, I was able to do more on my end. We was able to talk, like have one-on-ones a lot more, and like I felt like it was more of a, I would say more of like a whole team effort. Like we all had to buy in and understand what was going on, and I was trying to do my part, and just as far as on the field and like the players and all of that, like trying to make sure that as much as I could do for the team, I was going to get it done. But yeah, Coach K, he definitely a great guy. Somebody that, like you said, it was good just having somebody with a familiar face to step in, because like going through the whole coaching change right before the season, that's already tough for a team. So having a whole new guy that doesn't know our culture, doesn't know our system, like it wasn't as bad of a culture shock as I feel like it could have been at all. And that was another reason for me staying. Like I was one of the last like familiar guys, that was in that Wilson era and in that era of like trying to keep that culture and pass it down to the next guys. So, and that was a big thing for me.
Right. And after that, you went into kind of a similar area, right? You didn't go too far. You went on to the Washington Commanders, and we'll look at that transition that you made into the NFL as we continue with Locked On HBCU. Today's episode is brought to you by eBay Motors. The right parts, the right fits, the right prices. And honestly, what else could you ask for in the trio? I'm trying to figure it out. I'm trying to fix something up with my car. I need the right fit. I need the right parts. I need the right price. Every single thing is good. So you're going to have, and my friend, actually, he's getting his car fixed up. And I told him, he said, yeah, I think I'm going to need an alternator. I think I'm going to need this. I said, hey, whatever it is that you need, go to ebaymotors.com. Go to ebaymotors.com, and I promise you they're going to have it, and they're going to have it for you fast. And all you have to do is put your car in the My Garage section, right? I'm not going to tell you what my guy is driving, but, I say, hey, go ahead and put your bleep, 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 bleep into the My Garage section. And then I promise you, you'll have the right fit at a price that you're happy with, and it'll be there in the right time frame. eBay Motors, the right parts, the right fit, the right prices. eBay Motors, guaranteed fits. As we're wrapping up today's episode of Locked On HBCU, I appreciate you for making this your first listen of the day. Every day, making all the way to segment 3, and I thank you 2 times for that. I have Washington Commander defensive lineman Joshua Pryor, former Bowie State defensive lineman, here with me. And listen, before we get to the NFL, you first have to go through the pre-draft process. You have the Legacy Bowl. You have workouts with teams. You have meetings with teams. You have calls with teams. You have negotiation after the draft, the undrafted process. What was your pre-draft process like going from Bowie State until you get to the Washington Commanders?
Okay, so basically right after the season, I was focused on graduation. I was graduating that winter, so that first semester. So getting my graduation out the way as soon as I was done graduating, or at the same time also trying to figure out who was gonna be my agent. Of course I was dealing with that during the season, but I really wasn't focused on that. I was making the season my focus. So as soon as the season was over, now I'm trying to figure out which agent I'm gonna sign my agent, and that was just about training and trying to get as much as I can done before pro day and the bowl game and all that, like you said. So my agent, he got me situated working out in North Carolina at Duke at this Duke Performance. It's this this little program they put together, but I had a meal plan and had my combine training as well as my on the field training. And I was there from basically the start of the year all the way until it was time for the Legacy Combine, the HBCU Combine and Legacy Bowl. So at the end of my season, I was probably like 240. So I got up to like 255 going into the combine. I was actually feeling great about everything. Just went there and did what I had to do as far as the combine and the Legacy Bowl. Met a lot of guys, that, like I said, was, dealing with coming through the same struggle. And we all, at this point, it was just a nice, it was good camaraderie, it was just a great environment for me. And after that, went back down, continued to train until I had my pro day, which was at Maryland. So did my pro day, and then I was just home, trying to work out and stay in shape and just wait, because at that point, once you're done, your combine or your pro day and all that, you pretty much did all the work that you can do. So you just waiting for the call, trying to talk to your agent and see all right, have you heard from anybody? He tell me what he hearing, but at the end of the day, it's coming from my position, it was like a toss up, it's we playing a waiting game really. So draft night, day 3, finally get get through everything. And then, the phone started going off. Commanders, they was the first team to actually send an offer. So just kind of took it and, like I said, same thing. Like I just felt like you can't really like that's all I needed, the opportunity. Got there, and it was a big transition at first, just like seeing how much different it is from coming from like Bowie, as far as like the resources and like how much access that you have to things and all of that. So I was taking advantage of it really, like my process. A lot of people like lose weight during camp or like throughout the season or whatever the case. But me, I was gaining weight, like just back, like having that regimen and the resources, the meals, like all of that, like Bowie, like it was really like I was really trying to get it on my own. Like I even had like my family like doing meal prep for me, and like that's how I'm getting I'm trying to make sure I'm maintaining my calories, taking extra shakes. Like I was doing everything, so not having to like worry so much about all the outside stuff that still has to do with football, but it's not on the field. Like all of that stuff is like taken care of for now. So I was really able to just focus on football, focus on my craft, and um, just make that transition. Like the rookie mini camp and OTAs and all that, just trying to be around the guys and get a feel for everything. But I feel like the first practice, I was out there and I'm like, yeah, I realized like at the end of the day, football is football. Like
Yeah.
we all got the same helmet, same pads. Like it's not that much of it wasn't that much of like a shock physically for me, as much as it was like environmentally. So, I felt like it was a good transition for me, and that's pretty much like my pre-draft process, really.
Yeah, you mentioned something there that I thought was interesting. You mentioned your family meal prepping for you, right? Now we don't have to detail that, but it does kind of showcase just how close to home you were. So you played high school ball, college ball, and now professional ball, all kind of in the same area. What does it mean for you to be able to play all three of those levels pretty close to home?
Man, uh, I feel like it's a blessing, just like being able to be so close to my support system. It allows me to like my dad, he came to all of my college games, so I can like he can still come to all of my games, and just like being so close to the people that I played with growing up and like met along my journey, like everyone I feel like can see me, and like I'm almost like within like within reach to my support. So it's definitely a blessing. I feel like I'm playing for like everybody that I ever played with. Like
Mm,
we
mm.
all they was supporting the Commanders of the Ravens 9 times out of 10. So I feel like it's definitely a blessing. Not a lot. I feel like not a lot of people get to have that opportunity. So for me, I'm trying to really just make the most of it, and like do as much as I can with it, really. Especially as far as like just having my dad. I feel like that's my guy. You know what I'm saying? So just being able
Yeah.
to have him around and bring him around as much as I can, like that's big for me.
Right. And you know what? I'll take you one more place before we get out of here. We're going on this journey. People always say, act like you've been there before. Act like you've been there before. But sometimes we haven't been there before. Sometimes it's our first time being there. And in your first game, you were able to charge down on special teams, get yourself a tackle. You had never been there before. What was it like your first time in an NFL game, registering a tackle and being able to say, I was on the stat sheet? Like can't nobody take that away from you anymore. Like I was there and I see my name. You see my name. You see that number next to me. I played in an NFL game.
Yes, sir. For me, it's big. Especially like my situation, getting cut early in the season, then coming back, and that's my first game being elevated. So, it's kind of like like even from the moment I first ran on the field, it was just like a different feeling. Like of course I had my preseason games, but it's like now I'm really here. And I was like kind of just like I felt like this emotion just like rushing through my body. And like like on the field for me, I don't really have a whole lot of thoughts or like stress or nothing like that. Like I'm like this is what I do, so I feel like the practice that the preparation I put in is kind of like this is why I'm here. So just going out there and doing what my coach telling me, my coach Nate, that's my guy. But just trying to carry out my technique, run down the field. I see him like I replay the in my head a lot, but it's like running down the field. I see him like running, and he start turning the corner. I said, okay, I guess this is like this my tackle. Like so, after that was a great feeling, just getting up and all of my teammates coming over and cheering me on and supporting me. It's definitely no other way that I would have wanted to have my first game for sure. Especially like this is my first year playing special teams, but like I'm just out there playing ball, just having fun, really.
Man, I appreciate you, and I'll tell you what, I was out here just having fun during this interview. So I want to say thank you again. I appreciate you, your agent, setting this up. It was a great time, and I hope that everybody who was listening, they learned something, whether that was an experience, whether that was something to go show somebody else. That I definitely feel like there's a few sound bites in here. But Mr. Pryor, thank you immensely. I appreciate you. Y'all all go follow him on Twitter at _RetsNom55. That's R or _ RETSNOM55. Now, there's one thing every new guest has to do before we get out of here is I need you to let one play my music. Let one off and we out of here, man.
I got y'all. Play my music.
Peace.
Appreciate you.